Hello, welcome. My name is Paul Rock. I'm the head of communications within the Rex Code Manager team, and I'm just going to be comparing us through the day today, supported. Supporting my colleague Holly, who's got her camera on, as you can see there today. This is us. This is who we are. And Holly's our release manager for the code manager, responsible for making sure that all the change proposals that reach the stage of implementation are properly rolled out to all our community of parties and wider stakeholders. Just a few bits of housekeeping today before we do kick off. Aside from Holly and myself, I do ask that if most people could keep their cameras and microphones switched off just to minimise disruption, though we are a relatively small group today, so I don't expect that should cause us too many problems. We are recording today's event so that we can share the recording on our YouTube channel and out via the Rec portal, so that anyone who couldn't make today's session has that resource available to them. And it will be uploaded to the Rec Releases page as a resource on there, which I've put a link to in the message that I put in the chat. Also in the chat, I mentioned that we will be using Slido for asking questions through the event today. I think most people on this call have probably been to sessions like this before, so hopefully most of you know how it works by now. But you can access slido.com and put in the link that I put in the chat, or I'll put a QR code up in a second if you didn't catch it before, allowing you to log on and ask your questions that way. It might be that we ask you to unmute your mic if we need clarification on an initial question that raised through Slido, but we'll get to that point as it comes. Feel free to raise your questions throughout the session on Slido, and we'll pick them up as once Holly's gone through the 4 changes that are scheduled for release later today. I think that's probably all that we need to touch on in terms of housekeeping. Hopefully that was all fairly straightforward. We will have a survey on Slido later as well, just in case you've got any feedback you want to provide us on how today went. There's the QR code, so I'll leave that up on screen just for a couple of seconds, just in case you wanted to go in via the technological route and scan your smartphone and get in that way. But as I said, if you just want to go to slido.com, you can use the more traditional route of entering that code, which is both on the screen now and also in the chat as well. So you can get to that at any point you need to through the session. I think I've given enough time there, so I'm going to skip straight on to the brief agenda for today. We don't expect today's session to last very long. We've put half an hour in, but I expect that Holly certainly won't be speaking for half an hour, so really it depends on how many questions you guys raise as we go through. So Holly's going to take us through what's going on and going in later this month into the rec, followed by the available resources that people have to them where we may want to support you post implementation before we flick over to any questions that have been raised through the event. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to hand over to Holly, and Holly, you're going to take us through those changes that are in the schedule for implementation.
I am, thank you. Hi everybody. So for this February rec release, we have 3 CPs that have been agreed to be implemented, and we've got another one that is yet to be agreed but is targeting the 23rd of February release. So the first one is R0103, and that's a central provision of DCC technical contacts for requesting test certificates. We've got R0071, which is DCC access to EAS and GES. R0093, uplift to CSS maximum demand volumes during MHSS migration period. And the one that's yet to be agreed is R0156, which is updates to the CSS message business data validation rules and physical interface design specification. So I'll go through and talk through each of those CPs. If you want to go on to the next slide, Paul. Thank you. So the first one is 103. And this is the central provision of DCC technical contacts for requesting test certificates. So the switching operator carries out system testing, and that includes maintenance and emergency testing within the central switching service, or the CSS. And when they do this, this needs to be done within a test environment, and that requires security certificates. The security testing certificates do expire, and that means that there's not currently enough available for connecting to the particular test environment. So this change will allow the switching operator to nominate technical contacts, or TCs, for requesting those certificates for all CSS users, in order that certificates can be requested for simulators within the test environments. CSS users would continue to be able to nominate and remove their own TCs as they do now. And you can see all the TCs listed on the switching portal as well. So parties impacted by this change will be the switching operator, CSS users, and the switching data service provider. Schedule 25, which is the central switching service schedule, is going to be updated as part of this change, and it's going to be implemented in full on the 23rd of February 2024. That's the first one, and that's R0103. We'll move on to the next one. So this is R0071, and this is DCC access to the electricity inquiry service and the gas inquiry service. So as the switching operator, DCC, the CSS provider, are required to provide a service desk for the resolution of switching data queries, and data available through EES and GES would allow the service desk to resolve more tickets at point of contact, reducing the need to refer to third parties. And that would mean that it would be quicker. We'd see efficiencies within the switching service desk as tickets can be resolved faster, and an improved performance against SLAs. Parties impacted by this change are the switching service desk and the gas and electricity inquiry service provider. Products impacted by the change, so we've got the gas and electricity data access matrices, the data access matrix appendix 1, and the service user categorization document is a Cat3 document, and that will be updated as well as part of the annual review later in the year. And this one is going to be implemented as a phased implementation. So EES access will be implemented on the 23rd of February and GES access on the 24th of February, just a day later. So that's R71. We move on to the next one. So R0093, uplift to CSS maximum demand volumes during MHHS migration period. So as part of the MHS programme, there'll be around 31 million MPANs, which will be migrated from the existing settlement arrangements to those under the MHHS target operating model. And that's going to create quite a significantly increased volume of messages, whether that be for switches or changes to supplier agents for the CSS during that MHHS migration period. And at the moment, the CSS service definition does not currently require the switching operator to be capable of processing those additional volumes. So this change proposal will make the necessary updates to the REC, which will be the central switching service definition, to ensure that the switching operator is appropriately prepared for the increase in those message volumes during the MHHS migration period. So the parties impacted by this change will be the switching operator, CSS users, and switching data service providers. As I mentioned, the CSS service definition is being updated, but we're also going to update Schedule 1 interpretations and definitions, and that will be updated to include some new defined terms around MHHS migration period and related terms. And the change is going to be implemented in full on the 23rd of February 2024. So that's R093. And then the last one. So this one hasn't been approved for implementation yet, but it is targeting that 23rd of February implementation date. So currently there's a risk that without transparency of the physical interface design specification document, we'll call it the FID document, to save me from having to say that all again, and changes to it, that parties may use an outdated version. and then as a result of that, encounter errors in their system. So this proposal aims to bring that document, the FID, into the Retail Energy Code as a Category 3 document. And at the same time, we're going to be updating the Central Switching Service Message Business Data Validation Rules, which is a Cat 2 document, aligning both of those with current CSS functionality. Parties impacted by this change will be CSS and its users. And the products impacted will be the REC baseline statement and the CSS message business data validation rules. And pending approval, this will be implemented on the 23rd of February.
I might be preempting some questions here, but am I right in thinking that there's an ETS committee meeting of the technical expert panel planned to sign off the implementation of that within the coming sort of week, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, the final change report will be published on Friday for ex-committee decision by the 20th, but it is only updates to supporting documents, which is why it's gone through quite quickly.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks. And then if we move on to the next slide. So this is just a summary of all the impacted products as a result of this REC release. So Schedule 1, interpretations and definitions. So the defined terms relating to the MHHS migration period have been added. We've got Schedule 25, and that's been impacted by R103. So there's 2 new paragraphs which have been added, and that's around appointing technical contacts for testing certificates. We've got both the gas and the electricity data access matrices and the appendix. R71 is updating those particular documents. We've got CSS message business data validation rules, which is R156. CSS service definition, which is R93, and that's an addition of a new paragraph around maximum demand volumes during the MHHS migration period. And the REC baseline statement is being updated. It will be updated to include the new versions of all the particular schedules of any other documents that are being impacted as part of this change, but we're also going to be adding the FID as a Category 3 document. I think is that a good time probably to stop for support questions before we go on to the support.
So as of now, we have no questions raised. So I think if we go back to the base implementation support, and maybe if there are any questions that are raised during that period, we'll come back to them afterwards. But for now, no questions for you to answer, Holly.
Great, thank you.
Everyone should hopefully have access to that Slido link. So hopefully, if you do have any questions, you got easy access to that.
Thank you. So if you do need any support relating to this particular release, you can raise a service desk inquiry or email inquiries@recmanager.co.uk, or you can contact your operational account manager and they'll be happy to help. If it is relating to a technical issue with the gas inquiry service, you can contact ExoServe. If it's an issue with the EES service portal, you can email CNC and the email's there. This will be published on the REC portal as well, so you can easily access those particular links and email addresses. Or if you need any help using the switching management, there's a link there and you can raise a ServiceNow ticket as well. Again, just stop there and ask for if anybody's got any questions.
Still no questions at the moment, and I think it's probably reflective of the fairly
it's a straightforward
bespoke nature of this release and the changes involved. I have also opened the feedback survey now on Slido, so if you are on Slido, you should have access to the feedback survey. You can let us know if you found this session useful or any questions you might have or feedback you might have about how we run these sessions in the future. But we'll keep the question link open for another couple of minutes here, just in case anyone's asking their questions away. Just a reminder as well, in the chats, I know a few were a little late joining, so I'm not sure. I'll repeat the message that I put in the chat just in case that those who joined late couldn't see it. But just a couple of links to resources that are available to parties following the session. For example, the REC releases page on the portal where all the information about this release is stored, but also this recording will be placed as well as the slides from today's session, so that those resources are made available to each of you, and you can share with your colleagues as you need to. All right. Well, we still don't have any questions. So unless anyone does have any final questions, feel free to raise your hand. I think now if you do, because I don't think we don't want to give you time to cut you off before you finish typing your question in. But I think it sounds like we're not going to get any questions today. So I think this is good news. Hopefully that means you all have come away with a slightly better understanding of what's going in. And if you do have any questions, of course, afterwards that you didn't have a chance to ask today, drop us an email to inquiries@repmanager.co.uk. and we shall get straight back to you with the answers. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoons, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. And thank you, Holly.
Thank you. Bye all.